As you know by now, 7 units are getting direct buffs in Luna III. These are Mona, Venti, Albedo, Klee, Sucrose, Fischl and Razor. Along with these buffs and there being some new units, other characters are getting indirect buffs. In this video, we'll look at 14 units that are going to be stronger next patch than they are now. Stick around for the whole video because there are some unexpected surprises. With Durin nearly here and then Columbine around the corner afterwards, you might be struggling for Primo gems, but not to worry, LD Shop have you covered. They do top-ups for Genshin Impact, Star Rail and more, and it's up to 35% cheaper than in-game. Personally, I think the in-game prices are too expensive to justify buying, but the LD shop prices are genuinely worth it, especially with the bonuses for new users. You don't need your login details, just your UID and server, and everything will go right through. It's all completely safe, and I can vouch for that because I use them myself. At the moment, if you register using my link, you get a 15% off coupon and a 5% off coupon which can save you up to $30. If you've not used your in-game top-up bonus yet, don't worry, that can be activated with LD Shop too. If you invite a friend to register, you'll both get a 15% off coupon after the first order. As if all this isn't enough, if you spend $80 in 1 month, you get a free welkin to claim on the homepage. Check the link in the description for the discount coupons. I figured we'd start with Fischl, seeing as though most of us have it, and if you don't, you can grab a free copy in Luna III. With 2 Hexen Circle members, Fischl and the Onfielder get 22.5% attack after triggering Overloaded. Fischl and the Onfielder get 90 Elemental Mastery after triggering Electro Charged or Luna Charged. When Fischl's at C6, these buffs are doubled. This means you could go with Durin, Fischl, Chevreuse, and then any Electro or Pyro DPS on field. Venti's also getting a new bow which just so happens to work well on Fischl. It has 674 base attack, for context, Stringless has 510. It also has 44.1% crit damage and the passive is worded a bit strange, so it either gives 72% skill damage or 80%. Stringless has 48%. Basically, Big Osvaldo's gonna slap harder than the NPC in Mualani's quest.
Varamdra! Whoa.
On to our next character, we have Chevreuse. With Fischl, Razor and Klee getting buffs, as well as the addition of Durin to the cast, Overloaded is going to be even better and Chevreuse is the best Overloaded support in the game. As I mentioned in the Fischl section, you can just use the Overloaded trio of Durin, Fischl and Chevreuse, then throw in almost any Pyro or Electro DPS and you'll beat most content in the game. We could get a Hexen Circle set in the future, or Alice could even synergize with this team, so I don't think we've seen its ceiling yet. Razor's got some much needed buffs. The damage dealt by the Electro attacks in his burst are now increased by 70% of his attack. If you have 2 Hexen Circle characters in the team, when his Electro sigils exceed the limit, he'll deal an instance of AoE Electro damage and restore 7 energy. At C6, every time he gets a sigil, he'll get 3 instead of 1, and consuming sigils gives him 10% crit rate and 50% crit damage for 15 seconds. Basically, he's good now. So good in fact that his team with Fischl, Chevreuse and Bennett is the strongest 4 stars only team in the game. It's kind of inaccurate to the lore that his teams don't stink of shit now, just him. Before we move on from overloaded teams, let's have a look at Klee. Her charged attacks are stronger now, and her normal attack string is less clunky, so she'll be a lot more fun to play. I wouldn't advise pulling her unless you really like the character, but I think buffing Klee was a good idea. It's only fair that those that pulled her get to play her. Durin's an upgrade over Xilonen and her teams too, because he deals more damage and shreds pyro resistance. The Hexen Circle buffs for almost all characters are useful for Klee because it just gives her more team building options, whereas previously she didn't have many and there were better alternatives to her in all of them. Moving on from Overloaded, let's channel our inner Lauma and dive into Nefer. Assuming you were running Nefer with Lauma and a Hydro unit, your sustain options were limited. Nefer is the best choice, but a lot of people skipped her to get Lauma. You could give Cookie Instructor and she'll do enough to keep you alive, but that's about it. Kokomi could be your Hydro applier and then you could run Nahida, but is the Hydro application good enough in practice against enemies that move around a lot? Yehoda's a free to play sustain option in Nefer teams. She'll absorb the Hydro and apply even more, gives 100 Elemental Mastery to Nefer, and can hold either a Viridescent Venera, Serenade or Instructor, whichever you need the most. If you can get a C6, she's also going to give Moonsign characters in the team 5% crit rate and 40% crit damage. She also does the same for Flins. For those that don't have a Nefer, your sustain options weren't great. Cookie can hold Tenacity and give us Electro Resonance, Barbara or Kokomi could apply Hydro, but the team's DPS suffered. Yehoda gives us some of the Elemental Mastery a Nefer was given and can hold Viridescent Venera. This means you could swap out Aino and Sucrose for some off-field damage dealers, whichever's best for the content you're up against. With the Hexencircle buffs, you could even use Mona and Fischl. Speaking of Mona, let's look at her buffs. When there are 2 Hexencircle members in the team, Mona's normal and charge attacks give her a stack. She can get 3 stacks, and every time another teammate triggers Vape, it consumes a stack and gets a damage buff. Her normal and charge attacks also extend her Omen to a total of 8 seconds, so make sure you use 4 normal attacks after a burst. Her C1 is buffed to give more reaction damage, her C2 also gives 80 Elemental Mastery to the team now. C4 now gives Hexencircle members 15% crit damage, and her C6 buffs her charge attacks. She can drive Durin teams, can be the flex in Vape teams, or she could just be the flex in a bunch of teams where there's room for one. Just make sure there's another Hexencircle character in the team. Albedo is one of my favourite characters in the game, so his buffs are the ones I'm looking forward to the most. He reminds me of Christmas because of the nostalgia of pulling him when Dragonspine first dropped a few days before Christmas, so it's fitting that we're getting these buffs going into December. When there are 2 Hexencircle characters in the team, Albedo's skill essentially creates a ghost version of itself. This means it can't be destroyed by enemies. Also, he buffs the team's normal attack, charge attack, plunge attack, skill, and burst damage by 4% for every 1000 defense he has up to a maximum of 12%, so 3000 defense. For other Hexencircle characters, it is 10% damage for every 1000 defense up to a maximum of 30%. His skill damage is also buffed by the ghost flowers I mentioned earlier. His C1 gives extra defense now as well, so he's a good pick for your free constellation. You can pair him with Xilonen for a strong Geo pair, you could just use him as a solo flex wherever you need one, or you could pair him with Durin for a strong sub DPS pair with buffs and shred. Mualani's gonna pair well with Durin. We've got Xilonen as the healer for a buffs and shred, and then you can go with either of Mona or Albedo in the flex slot. Mona gives HP from Hydro Resonance as well as a Omen buff. Albedo gives another source of damage and an Elemental Mastery and damage buff. One of the previous issues with Mualani's Hydro teammates is they apply too much Hydro and steal her vapes. Then there was Mona's Omen buff, which was too short to get much use out of it, but in Luna 3 that's not the case. The Sucrose buffs are useful too if you use her in the flex slot. With us not using a burst, it'll only be a 5.7% damage buff, but it's better than nothing, and it will apply to Durin's damage too. Ito's been out of the meta for a long time, and to be honest, I still think he will be, but this patch is definitely a win for him. Not only is Albedo getting buffs, but Durin is an almost perfect option for the last slot in Ito teams. Durin's an extra source of damage, but he's also shredding the opponent's Geo resistance to make both Ito and Albedo deal more. If you don't go for Durin, Mona's Omen getting extended means you'll be able to take advantage of that buff with Ito for more of his burst mode. It won't stay up for the full duration though. Sucrose also got some buffs. After using a skill, she buffs the team's normal attacks, charge attacks, plunge attacks, skills, and burst by 5.7%. After using a burst, she'll buff them by 7.1%. Basically, use a skill and burst and buff most instances of damage by about 13%. At C6, if a burst absorbs an element, she'll buff the team's damage of that element by an extra 8.5% too. For teams with Durin, you could go Mono Pyro, and Sucrose is more or less equal to Kazuha now. Maybe better with Thrilling Tales. Vape teams would be the same to be honest, just swap Kazuha out for her. Oh, by the way, Venti's a DPS now. His normals are converted into Animo damage, and they increase the duration of his burst by 1 second up to a total of 2 seconds. When his burst is active, on-fielders that trigger a swirl reaction have their damage increased by 50%, and Venti's burst will deal more damage. That means not only can he drive as the on-fielder, he can also buff other Animo on-fielders like Xiao and Heizo, maybe even Varka when he drops. He's also got that new signature bow we talked about earlier, which is long overdue because he was our first Archon after all. I'll be honest, I never thought I'd consider pulling Venti in my life, so credit to them for reworking his kit to the point where I'm almost tempted. I guess we'll see when he reruns next patch. Genshin Impacts love a dragon character, so if you do too, you'll be glad to know Durin synergizes with Knight. If you want the team to do more damage, give Emily Unfinished Reverie and Durin Deepwood. If you want Durin to do more damage, swap it the other way round. If you were previously running Moika in this team, it'll be a relief to free her up for your other teams. She does more for Kaniche than Durin does, but less for Emily, with her being off-field and not able to take advantage of the buff from Moika's burst, which only buffs the on-fielder. Overall, Theory Crafters say Durin is better for the team, but he could get even stronger if he gets his own signature set in Luna IV. Last, but definitely not least, we have Xilonen. She's still in the best team in the game, but as we've got more niche supports like Sealali, Escoffia and Inefa, it feels like Xilonen is slowly being phased out. I think she'll always have value to Moika, not just for her buffs and shred, but also for charging a burst. Regardless, the Albedo buffs mean that Xilonen has another use case. In the early days of Genshin, Zhongli and Albedo was a strong geo pair that you could drop into almost any team, and while it wouldn't be top of the spreadsheets, it was versatile. Xilonen and Albedo is like the new version of that, definitely not top tier but not far off, and for a lot of characters. So that was 14 units getting buffed in Luna III. Drop a comment if I missed any, because I not only read all my comments but I try to reply to them all too. I put out a Durin video on Friday. If you haven't seen it, punch yourself in the face. We have a lot of Durin mains in the Discord too, so join it if you're pulling him and take it easy.